Hey Raghunath, tell everyone about our Patreon community.
Sure, Kaustubha. The Wisdom of the Sages Patreon community is an incredible online yoga resource. If you like the type of yoga wisdom and culture we share on the show, then our Patreon community is a great next step. This is a listener-supported podcast, and any level of sponsorship will unlock a wide range of live and archived classes, talks, and even workshops.
Raghunath teaches, I teach, and we have a host of other excellent teachers on topics ranging from yoga philosophy, asana classes, storytelling, Ayurveda, kirtan, cooking, meditation, and a lot more.
We even have an incredible online Bhakti 12-step recovery group.
So if you want to check it out, go to patreon.com/wisdom of the sages.
All right, let's get it on.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily yoga podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York, Kaustubha Das. Welcome to the show. Welcome to Thursday's Srimad-Bhagavatam class. And slowly building. What is it?
Friday.
Oh, it's Friday. Well, there you go. There you go. I'm off. You know, you want to check in with someone who can at least tell, it's like you turn on the news and they're like, hey, good morning, it's October 11th, Sunday. You need someone to tell you, sorry, I'm not fulfilling that desire for some people, telling them what day of the week it is. But it is Friday. Okay, that's good. I am feeling like my health level has gone up a half a step. I feel a little strong. I'm taking it easy. I'm feeling good.
Okay,
and
good.
today, Mr. Kaustubha, is a holy day. You know that?
I'm aware. I do know that, yeah.
And before we get into it, I want to give some shout out thanks to Kateri. Kateri came over, brought all these sweet groceries over. She was so sweet. Love her. I want to thank her. A lot of love. People, we need purpose in our life. We need purpose, and our purpose is not to serve ourselves, it's to serve. And it gives us such great joy and satisfaction. And I'm like in awe and inspired by all the people who've been like really reaching out and caring. We have like such a loving community. I feel healed by all the love that's been out there. So thanks, Kateri. Also, my buddy J-Mud. Have you ever tried these samadhi drops? These are incredible. Go to mymumsnuts.com. My mums, MUMS, nuts.com. It's a CBD oil that is totally took care of me when I couldn't sleep. It totally chilled me out, reduced anxiety, and helped me completely relax. And he's a devotee. He handcrafts this stuff. And he's great. mymumsnuts.com. And he does it all himself. And really, check this out. I didn't get to show you yesterday, but Jai Shri Triolo. Kavacha Designs. If you like this incredible gift she gave me, and I put all my Govardhan dust in here. Check this out. Is that super Krishna conscious bling or what? It's a kavacha that you can open up and you can put dust in, and therefore you have a kavacha means like a armor, and it's like sacred armor to wear. And so I'm first offering this sacred dust in here, and I offer it to my deities. And I wear it for protection and to remind me of holy places. And go to kavachadesigns.com, Kavacha designs.com. And she was the one who spearheaded the Chant Camp California. And we're excited to do that again next year. And this time I'm going to show up.
Okay.
So today is, in India, they have these 9 days of worshiping the manifestations of the Divine Mother. So you have goddess Kali, Durga, Chandi. Basically, mother has different moods. If you're a mom, you got different moods. And on the 10th day, this is what today is. It's called Dashara. And the 10th day is, and so this is big festival time. All of India is like fasting for 9 days, and different fasts on these 9 days. And this is the day of the return of Lord Ram from the rescuing of Sita, the return to Ayodhya. It's sort of basically good is conquering evil. And it's a big holiday, Ram Vijay. The first time I actually celebrated this festival in India, it was great because all over India they build these.
Just one thing, Raghunath. I think is Ram Vijayotsav means it's the day that Ram conquered over Ravana, and Diwali is the day that.
Yes, you're right. It's the day they conquered over Ram and Kumbhakarna. Kumbhakarna and Ravana. So what they build, and you've seen these, and Mara, have you seen these? They build these I remember sitting on the bank of the Ganga, and I'm like, oh, a little festival is happening, and there's like maybe 100 children dressed like little monkeys, and they're running through the towns with swords and torches. Yep, little children and torches. What could go wrong?
Swords.
And swords. But then they build these giant epitaphs of maybe like 6 stories high, made of paper mache with like 10 heads, with like a half a stick of dynamite in each head, covered in propane. And then they shoot a flaming arrow right into these epitaphs. And the whole town is there. The whole thing catches on fire. Heads are exploding. Children are running for their lives. It's like the most, like any fire code, fire marshal would have taken this down. But it's one of those religious festivals you can't argue with, especially when these 6-foot flaming effigies start falling uncontrollably. But it is quite a festival. And it is the destruction of evil. With good over evil. And so today is that special day. And I like to be in India on this day today, and I'm not. But I've got a little nugget for you in that regard.
Let's hear it.
Share. Mm-hmm. Okay. It's sort of a nugget of good. One day a person climbed up a mountain where a woman hermit was meditating. And so this person who climbed up asked her, he said, what do you do in your loneliness? She replied, well, I have a lot of work to do. And how do you get so much work? I mean, there's nothing up here. She said, well, I have 2 falcons and 2 eagles. I have 2 rabbits. I have to calm 2 rabbits. I have to discipline a snake. I have to motivate a donkey and tame a lion. And the guy said, well, where are they? I don't see them. She said, I have them inside. Hawks throw themselves on everything presented to me, good or bad. I have to train them to throw themselves only on the good things. So the hawks represent my eyes. That's the first work. You got to train your eyes what to land on. Obviously, she's speaking in animal metaphors. The 2 eagles with their claws hurt and destroy. I have to teach them not to harm. These are my hands, right? Hands have that ability. Create or wreck stuff. Now the rabbits, they want to go wherever they want to go. They run away from facing difficult situations. I have to teach them to stay calm, even if they're suffering or obstacles. The rabbits represent my feet. Pretty good.
Gotta step up.
Yep, step it up. The donkey is also tired, always tired. He's stubborn. Very often he doesn't want to carry his own weight. This is my body. I relate to that.
Lethargy.
I want to work out. The hardest to tame is the snake. Even if he is locked up in a sturdy cage, he always is ready to bite and poison anyone close to him. I have to discipline this snake. It's my tongue. That's what they say, right? The tongue is the most difficult and, what is the word?
Voracious.
Voracious to control. Wants to eat anything, say anything, speak anything. And, in Bhakti, we accept that the tongue is really our gateway to liberation or a gateway to degradation, right? Just like the festival of degradation and the festival of, remember that? We said that the other day? The
Yeah.
festival of
I forget.
edification, the festival of
Yeah.
degradation. I really want to make that a shirt, actually. Degradation festival. As you can see, I have a lot of work to do. That's the story. Oh, no, no. She is a lion. I forgot. I also have a lion. He's proud. He's vain. He thinks he's the king. Got to tame him. That's my guess.
Ego.
My ego. Yeah. You got it, Kaustubha. You are wise.
Mara's asking you to make her the host, Raghu. She's asking me, but I can't do it.
I don't know where she is any longer. I mean, see her.
Anyway, tell us about the story. What are your thoughts on it?
What story?
The one that you just read?
The story, it's great. I mean, I like the analogy. I like these wise analogies. Really putting me on the hot seat. I thought my telling the story was enough.
Well,
they're gonna make me like do purports on it.
Generally, you do elaborate on things, but you don't have to if you don't want
My
to.
two eagles, my hawks, my little rabbits, my lazy donkey ass.
Yeah, I think it's, always in these stories where there's some demon being killed or something like that, we're always meant to look at ourselves internally, right? That it's not always some external, we walk around this world thinking the evil is always outside and needs to be, it has nothing to do with me, but something else outside needs to be corrected. But these stories, they also have like an internal aspect that there's something within us that needs to be conquered. And so this, I don't even know that story where it came from, where you read it, but it's consistent with that idea, right? That really the enemies are within. That we need to carefully identify them and through this practice, eliminate them. So I think it's nice that on days like today, Ram Vijayotsav, you think like that, you pray like that, right?
Yeah, this is a good day to pray. Got a lot of evil. Got a lot of evil in there. Got to work out. It's happening. By the way, our Wisdom of Sages thing is happening. We're just going to put that out there. January 11th, which is my birthday, by the way. Mark your calendars. Send the presents. We are having Wisdom of the Sages retreat in Cali, Colombia. I just talked to the ashram yesterday. They're really excited for us to come. It's going to be a little transcendental party in a tropical place during a very cold time on the East Coast. And it's going to be great. A cross between beauty and great food and great company and a great way to refresh our consciousness. And truthfully, I think that's part of one of our Wisdom of Sages missions is getting people together on the regular to upgrade our consciousness and make life more enjoyable by the association of people on a spiritual path. What do you think, Kaustubha?
I think it'll be a great thing to do. Not only do you get to escape the winter, if you're from the northern hemisphere, but we'll spend really good quality time together. I think we can combine some kinds of learning and training, but also just some like meditative experiences and so on. Of course, kirtan and prasadam and being with each other. So I think it'll be a really good time.
No, Rachel corrected me. It's the 12th to the 21st.
12th to the 21st. So when can people sign up for this? What's going on with that?
Immediately. We're going to put it up on our website probably today or tomorrow. And it is limited. So if you're interested, and we're trying to keep the prices very reasonable, just because we just want to keep that community together. We want to make these things available for our personal transformation and not necessarily just book some high-end yoga retreats. We want this stuff to be practical, real, relevant, and that we can be affected and thus affect others when we go back to our world. So I'm looking forward to getting to meet everybody. It's really special to meet all these Zoom faces, these mysterious others that are out there, and get together with. They have a whole cool community down there as well too. That also listens to Wisdom of the Sages.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I forgot to say good morning to Karuna. Sorry, Karuna. Sometimes I forget things. Okay. So what do you say we dive into the sacred Srimad-Bhagavatam?
I'm ready.
I started studying Sanskrit again. I figure, you know what? I'm going to be like a little chill. I'm going to start studying Sanskrit. I started that course again with Nityananda. I'm excited.
Oh, the pronunciation one?
Yeah, I'm going to learn how to pronounce a little Sanskrit. Oh, I got a prayer out to Leela Vilasini. She's one of our good friends. We love her so much, our teacher. She got in a scooter accident in Vrindavan. She's okay, but she got a little messed up. And so we're saying some prayers for her. Check this out. She hit cow dung and wiped out on the scooter. That's only in Vrindavan. Stuff like that happens.
Yeah. Oh, my prayers for her.
Okay.
I feel so bad about that.
Yeah, we love her so much. Okay. All right. So we are in, let's just start the secret mantras. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narotamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayamudiraye. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan. Unto Narayan Rishi, the supremest human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshva badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya, bhagavati uttama shloke bhaktir bhavati naishtaki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam, and by rendering service to the pure devotee, all that is troublesome in the heart will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyana Tamarandasya Yananjana Shalakaya Chakshurunadatam Nina Tasmai Sri Gurave Namaha. I was born blind. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my respectful obeisances at their lotus feet. Born blind. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 25, text 37-ish. Thank God for ish. What a great word. What a great add-on. There was no ish when I was growing up, but it's such a relevant. I use ish maybe 5 times a day. Thank you.
All right. Well, yeah, we read 37 yesterday, so we're on 38 today.
It's 38 today? Okay. All right, ish. Text 38, Lord continued, my dear mother, the devotees who receive such transcendental opulences are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulences. Because the devotees accept me as their friend, their relative, their son, their preceptor, their benefactor, and their supreme deity, they cannot be deprived of their possessions at any time. Can I read that again?
Please do.
My dear mother, devotees who receive such transcendental opulences are never bereft of them. Neither weapons nor the change of time can destroy such opulences. Because the devotees accept me as their friend, their relative, their son, their preceptor, their benefactor, and their supreme deity, they cannot be deprived of their possessions at any time, right? Once you've got Krishna, that's it. You've got it. You've got nothing to lose ever.
Yeah, it can't be lost. These things are, yeah, they're of spiritual nature. They're not of material nature. I was just noticing, I think yesterday you read like part of 37, but you never completed it, if I remember correctly. Because I remember we started talking about Satyaloka.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So maybe we got to go back and read that too. And there's some nice stuff in the commentary to that one. So.
Want to go back to 37? Okay.
Yeah, let's read 37.
Thus he is completely absorbed in thought of me. The devotee does not desire even the highest benediction obtainable in the upper planetary systems, including Satyaloka. Yeah, I got like distracted from that. Like, what could we desire? We don't even know what's out there. He does not desire the 8 material perfections obtained from the mystic yoga, nor does he desire to be elevated to the kingdom of God. Pretty interesting. Yet, even without desiring them, the devotee enjoys, even in this life, all the offered benedictions. We might have read that.
Maybe we did.
Okay, you want the purport here?
Actually, you know, I feel it's kind of mixed up today, but in text 38, we hear about these benedictions, what it's like, right? you receive these opulences, you're never bereft of them. Nothing can take it away. And it has to do with the way that you feel, the connection, the relationship that you have with God. And then it begins to list these different ways that people have that feeling, you know. It mentions some people see God as their friend. Some people see God as their relative. Some as their son, as their preceptor, as their benefactor, as their supreme deity. And that's something that you never lose. That's something that the things of this material world can't take away from you. But this is talking about a very elevated stage of development in bhakti. You know, when you were when we had guest host, was it last week or the week before? We had Jai Jagannath on. I think it was with him that we were discussing the different. Maybe it was with you too, but with those different stages from Shraddha to Prema. Right.
Wasn't here for
You
that
weren't
day.
here. Yeah. So you know, we discussed that earlier. You know, that one, it begins with faith. The next stage is sadhu sangha. One associates closely with other bhakti yogis, and then comes a stage of practice where one becomes instructed in the practice called bhajana kriya. And then by going through that, one can become purified of all these, just like we're talking about today, all these unwanted things in the heart. You know, victory over them, right? So that's called anartha nivritti, ridding oneself of all of one's bad habits or lower nature.
It's a great statement, isn't it? Anartha nivritti.
Anartha nivritti.
Ridding yourself of all bad habits.
Yeah.
What a exalted state.
And if that's done, then one achieves this platform called nishta, right? Which means steadiness, where our practice is no longer rocked by the things of this world. It remains the same. We're not pulled in this direction and pulled in that direction, but because we've let go of that lower nature, we're very steady, we're very fixed, which leads to ruchi, which means one starts to get very deep spiritual taste, and a shakti, those tastes become almost like addictive. And
hold on a second. Hold it.
Yeah.
Nishta, steadiness.
Yeah.
That's attractive. A steadiness in the storm. Ruchi means above your steadiness now is some great deep type of joy. I love that word, ruchi. And what's the next one?
Ashakti.
Ashakti. What does that mean?
It means that taste begins to really, it's one thing if you taste something, it's another thing if you become addicted to it. And so Shakti is like, now you're becoming addicted to God, right? It's like, it's really taking over your life.
Addicted to God.
Addicted to God. And that leads to the stage that's being described here, which is called bhava, right? And bhava is the sprout of, prema is the ultimate goal, which means like ultimate pure love of God, achieving the whole goal of life, restoring entirely, you know, the dormant love for God that is within us all. And so bhava means like, it's just like the sprout just started to come out of the ground of that. But very special things happen in that stage of bhava, including what's being described here, which is one begins to understand their relationship with God. It's the birth of that, right? Like what special variety it takes place in. There's a beautiful verse in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is Rupa Goswami's work about, you know, about bhakti in general, and especially that esoteric side of bhakti. Like, you know, when it gets to this, when I say esoteric side, I mean, you know, what is my relationship with God? In what variety does it come? You know, how do I relate to God? In what intimate way do I relate with God? And that verse says that, it says that when devotional service is executed on the transcendental platform of pure goodness, it is like a sun ray of love for Krishna.
Oh, that's poetic.
At such a time, devotional service, this practice of bhakti, causes the heart to be softened by various tastes. And one is then situated in bhava. One's deepest spiritual emotions, you know, start to sprout. And so then...
Sometimes when you hear someone's like addicted to God, like you used that expression before, addicted to God, that almost sounds like you could be walking around with a black veil with your head down and just going to church 11 times a day. It doesn't sound like, at least from the paradigm of the Western idea of a person addicted, it doesn't sound very attractive. But the way we're putting it, or the way the Bhagavatam is putting it, ruchi, getting rid of anartha nivritti, this bhava, this sprouting, this, what did you call it? The rays of the Krishna.
It's like a sun ray of love of God.
Sun ray of love of God. That's attractive. That's what I want. I want to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, even more so. In other words, I think what you're describing is sometimes there's some kind of self-denial and people are going through some kind of rigorous practice that's kind of dry and so on.
Yeah, I want to walk down the street and kick my heels together and say, "Oh my God, my sweet baby Krishna, I'm yours." That's what I want. I want to wake up like that. That's my idea of God consciousness.
Yeah, well, yeah, and even that can be there. There's the when we're describing those other levels, like bhajana kriya, right? In other words, the guru prescribes a certain type of practice and service, including, that's likely going to include chanting japa, meditating on the mantra, and how much you do that, right? How many rounds you do that, meditating on yourself, and your hearing will be regulated. How much I read and study and meditate on, and so on. Also just like more practical lifestyle things, because as we mentioned the other day, right, we need the right lifestyle, we need the right conceptions, we need the right sentiments for this practice to take hold. So in bhajana kriya, with under the guidance of someone more advanced in this, ideally someone very expert in it, they're giving the guidance to how to do the practice of bhakti. And if one does that with great sincerity and with enthusiasm and with patience, one can pass through that stage of anartha nivritti. And once one becomes steady, it can really take off. It may take us a long time to pass through that stage of anartha nivritti, but if we can hit that stage of steadiness, then taste is going to start to come. And then that addiction that we're talking about, it's like, think of it more like falling in love with someone, right? It's not that, like what you were describing sound like there is no love. It's like kind of dry, I'm following these rules and regulations out of some sense of obligation that's been imposed on me.
Right.
But what we're talking about here is it's like falling in love with someone. It's spontaneous and it's full of excitement and joy and so on. And so those tastes are arising. And at this stage so when we say addicted, just like when, there's a beautiful prayer by Rupa Goswami, also by Rupa Goswami, where he prays, he says that just like the minds of young boys become attached to young girls, and just like the minds of young girls become attached to young boys, right when they fall in love, right? Like that, especially that teenage, puppy love kind of thing. Teenage love. And so when a teenager falls in love for like the first time or something like that, it's what's happening is spontaneous, and their mind becomes fully absorbed in that other person. And it's not that they have to try. It's not that they have to work at it. It's not that they have to regulate their mind to try to bring their mind to that other person. But their mind is going there with excitement and with spontaneity and with joy. And so Rupa Goswami says, just as the minds of young boys become attached to young girls, and the minds of young girls become attached to young boys, may my mind always be attached to you, Radha and Krishna. So that's what we're talking about here. It's a kind of spiritual experience where one has gone beyond the need to regulate it by the rule. It's not putting down the need for regulation is important on the earlier stages, but on this stage, it's spontaneous. And what to speak of at the stage of bhava, where actually something so special is happening, that a very particular way of loving God is beginning to manifest in you. And the joy of that is, I don't know if we can really describe it in words, But Prabhupada writes some interesting stuff here about this. He writes, the devotee accepts the Supreme Lord as the most dear personality, and in reciprocation with him in different relationships. Right? There's a variety, and one of those varieties will arise in you. They accept that the Supreme Personality of Godhead as the dearmost friend, the dearmost relative, the dearmost son, the dearmost preceptor, the dearmost well-wisher, or the dearmost deity. The Lord is eternal, therefore any relationship in which we accept him is also eternal. It is clearly confirmed herein that the relationships cannot be destroyed, and therefore the opulences of those relationships are never destroyed. Every living entity has the propensity to love someone, okay? Right? Every living entity has the propensity to love. That's in us right now. On these stages, it's finally being focused on our source, right? It's finally being focused on the root, and now it's coming up in some beautiful variety. But still, Srila Prabhupada is saying every living entity has the propensity to love someone. We can see that if someone has no object of love, they generally direct their love towards a pet animal like a cat or a dog, right? It's natural, right? That's why people get pets. They want that feeling of emotional exchange, right? Thus, the eternal propensity for love in all living entities is always searching for a place to reside. Right? This is what's happening in our lives, right? It's under the guise of so many things, and it becomes confused and mixed up in so many ways. But basically, this is what we're doing, right? Thus, the eternal propensity for love in all living entities is always searching for a place to reside. From this verse, we can learn that we can love the Supreme Personality of Godhead as our dearmost object, as a friend, as a son, as a preceptor, as a well-wisher. And there will be no cheating and no end to such love. We shall eternally enjoy the relationship with the Supreme Lord in different aspects, right? There'll be all different kind of nuances to that love. A special feature of this verse is the acceptance of the Supreme Lord as the Supreme Preceptor. Bhagavad Gita was spoken directly by the Supreme Lord, and Arjuna accepted Krishna as Guru or spiritual master. Similarly, we should accept only Krishna as the Supreme Spiritual Master.
Cool. All right. So that was 37, right?
That was 38.
Oh, let's go. We want to jump to 39. Okay. 39 and 40. Thus, the devotee who worships me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, in unflinching bhakti, gives up all aspirations to be promoted to heavenly planets or to become happy in this world with wealth, children, cattle. Yeah, cattle and children give me a lot of great joy. Home, or anything in relationship to the body. I take him to the other side of birth and death. These are like really sort of, these are the things that make people happy. Wealth, children, cattle, I guess.
Cattle is like wealth in
the old days, guys got cattle. Their home, people like their home. I feel like, I'm going home. So these are the things that really ground us to our body in one sense. Anything, and here it says anything in relationship to the body, and it gives us a feeling of identity. So like last week when I was really feeling physically threatened, I thought, man, am I going to lose my children? Am I going to lose my home? Am I going to lose my everything everything that sort of represents to the material world what I am? Am I going to lose all that? And it starts to make you start to think, who am I and what is mine? That whole I, me, and mine thing. And so again, in the Bhagavatam, again and again, you'll hear this idea of you're not a body, you're not your family, you're not your children. And it sounds very harsh, almost like you're just cutting the fat. But what it is, and the Bhagavatam does this on the regular, is it cuts the romance of material existence and puts you in this position where it's just you and God, man. And but here it says, I take this person, when they get that realization in their unflinching bhakti, I take them to the other side of birth and death. And even though that might sound like some pie in the sky when you die, it's actually, if you can actually have that consciousness in this lifetime, surrounded by your home, your family, even your cattle, you can actually be happy within this life, just understanding it's not mine. They're not mine. I'm going to take care of them. I'm going to love them. They're with me. It's just not mine. I've got a rental right now because my wife hit a bear with my truck. Did I tell you that?
No, a bear.
Bear. She hit a bear. Hit a bear, man.
How did the bear fare?
How did the bear fare? I don't think my wife didn't fare well. The bear didn't fare well, and the truck didn't fare well, truthfully. But anyway, I got a rental car, and it's a nice rental car. They, the insurance company give me a rental car, and I take care of the rental car. I like to drive the rental car, but there's like a deep understanding, like this ain't my car. You know what I mean? No matter, don't get attached to it,
right?
And don't hate it. It's not. It's just what you got right now. And in this world, we get stuff in our possession that is not ours. They're just loaners. They're loaners from Enterprise rental cars, and we can't keep them. And you might enjoy them, or you might be frustrated with them, whatever it is, but it's what we have for this amount of time in life. And our job is to maintain and love whatever we have, but we can't get too attached. And I find that this is the delicate dance, the slack line of material existence is, can I learn how to love and ultimately be detached from this world? Because we're going to get stuff. I'm looking at Mara, look at her very opulent commercial kitchen. She's there with her fine utensils, and we get certain things in this world, and sometimes we get great things, sometimes we get raggy things, and whatever we have, we take care of, we maintain, we see it as God's mercy, but ultimately it's not ours. That's the little Rubik's Cube of the Bhagavatam lessons.
Rubik's Cube.
Rubik's Cube.
I don't think it's that complicated. Right.
Oh, it's complicated, man.
I think it's
Catch
simple.
the kids.
I'm not saying it's easy, but I think it's simple,
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. That's the master. That's the Gosai. That's the master. Can you be in this world and not be implicated in the craziness of this world?
And as we're saying, part of it has to do with our conception. So like when we look at this verse, it's interesting. There's always these details in these verses if we look closely at them, right? It says, we just heard about a very elevated stage of bhakti, right? Where, this bhava stage where the nature of one's relationship is being revealed to one. It's very, it's quite an accomplishment. This verse kind of brings us back to earth, like back to the more, back to the practitioner, not the person that's achieved the goal of it. And it says, thus, to achieve this, right? In order to achieve what's just been described, thus, the devotee who worships me. And then it didn't have to mention this, right? But it's mentioned the all-pervading Lord of the universe, right? Mam evam vishvato mukam. He pervades the entire universe. Bhajantya, what is it? Bhajantananya bhaktya, but doing it with complete, unflinching devotional service. It's not distracted by anything. But this idea that then it goes on to mention that none of these things are ours, right? Like as you're saying, right? I don't want the heavenly planets. That's not my property. It doesn't belong to me. Even my wealth, even my family, and so on. These things they're really not my property. And there's a hint about that when Krishna says they worship me, the all-pervading Lord of the universe, right? Because, and this is something that, I've been discussing lately, right? But the idea that because my consciousness pervades my body, in one sense, we say it's my body. And because Krishna's consciousness is all-pervading, right? The all-pervading Lord of the universe, his consciousness is spread throughout every atom of the universe. Therefore, really, it means it's all his body. It's all his property. And so it's with that, that conception is a powerful one. That you're saying it's a Rubik's Cube. I'm saying it's simple, but it's difficult because we don't get that. But if we meditate on that idea, right? If we meditate on Lord Vishnu, if we meditate on Lord Vishnu's presence within my own body and within the body of every living being, and if we meditate on Lord Vishnu's presence being within every atom, scattered throughout the universe,
it's amazing.
Then we say it's all his, right?
It's amazing. It's nothing's ours. Nothing at all is ours.
Yeah.
It's actually an amazing realization. Just when you think like, no, I got this. You don't have anything. You have nothing.
In one sense,
you get to keep nothing.
Or there's one thing that we have actually, right? And that's our freedom to desire as we wish, right? Like that's ours.
I call it the desire. Listen to this one. I like this one better.
Yeah.
The desire to give love. The desire to give love, nobody can take that away from you except you.
Yeah, that's your nature.
Nice.
Nice.
But it's hard to really imagine, like, we actually have nothing. And it can be depressing if you think it's a world of having stuff. Like, I've worked so hard at my age, at this point, I should have this. No, you shouldn't. It's not yours. It's all on loan to us, man.
Yeah, your analogy is a good one of the car, right? You have to zoom out. It's not hard for you when you're in that rent-a-car to be conscious of the idea that even though I'm driving this, even though I have some license to use it for some time, that time is very limited. And at a certain point, not too far in the future, I'm going to turn this over again to the owner. And so when we zoom out, we actually see our existence in our body that way, our existence in our family that way, our existence in all. If we take this entire lifetime in this body, that the yogi is zooming out and seeing it just the same way, right? I'm in it for just a short amount of time. It's actually not my property. And in a short amount of time, I'm going to have to turn it over back to the owner again, right?
Yeah.
And then it's on to the next one. So none of it's mine. That's a liberating conception, right? And it's the kind of conception that enables one to do what's being said in this verse, to give their entire heart over. And it's from that level of conception that one is taken over to the other side of birth and death.
Just like you're in your apartment right now, right? You like your apartment. This was sort of your new apartment this year. But it's hard to believe that there has been people who've had families, who've had children, who've
yes.
given birth, who've maybe died in that apartment. And then another family before then, and another family before then, all under this conception that this is their apartment. Like, this is my home. This is where we live. This is where we raise our children. This is part of our identity. We are just passengers going through these buildings, and out of illusion, we start to think, this is my right.
Yeah.
That is sort of what's sort of cool. I think, someone like our buddy Henry here, he grew up, well, maybe not now, but when we knew Henry, when we were a little younger, he grew up in his family house. Maybe some of you guys have, where you're sort of like, as an adult, you're in your family house, and you've watched yourself grow there as a child, and then as a teenager, then as an adult, and then and you watch your parents pass on. And those realizations of always just changing bodies and changing places, and you're thinking, wow, this time is eternal. And someone was living here before it was my family house. And then someone will live there after we sell the house. These are like great reflections, I think. That's why I think photographs are great to we put in the house. So you just see the passage of time. I think it assists with our God realization. Think about that, Kaustubha.
Yeah, you've mentioned that before. I mean, I think for some people it may drag them into nostalgia, right? Like even further identifying with it. But you're right; it can also. I suppose two people look at it in different ways, right? Like, the materialists look at those photographs and it brings their consciousness one direction, and the yogi looks at it and it brings their consciousness in another way.
This photo.
Nice.
Isn't that adorable? Okay. I didn't want to do that, but I keep a picture of my two older kids on my desk when they were little. Okay. They both look like Shirley Temple. Sorry about that. It was a diversion. Where are we now?
Text 41.
Text 40.
This is an interesting text. We're gonna have to discuss this.
The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. For I am the Almighty Lord, the personality of Godhead, the original source of all creation, and also the supreme soul of all souls. I think I know where you're going with this.
Okay.
Because we all romanticize birth, and we paint the woman's tummy with like mandalas and stuff like that. But here it says the terrible fear of birth and death.
That's not where I was going, but we can go there.
Okay. The terrible fear of birth and death can never be forsaken by anybody, by anyone who resorts to any shelter other than myself. Yeah. We're looking at birth and death not as this one point in time. The birth. Oh, the death. We're looking at it as a cycle.
It's something that you're subjected to.
Cycle. And it's almost like going in and out of prison.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not like you're on holiday or something. We are just like wandering around, making silly mistakes again and again. That's samsara. That's samsara again and again and again. So when we talk about birth and death, we're stripping away the romance here. We're even stripping away the sadness of death and just looking at it as it is. that the soul is just tumbling around in the electric dryer of material existence, just bouncing around, bumping our head. And so we're here to learn these lessons so the dryer door can eventually open and we can just escape the whole thing. How about that one? The dryer door opens, we escape the tumble cycle. Ah!
Right. Yeah. So, but it is described as bhayam here, right? As fear, because in other words, as long our natural situation is to be beyond birth and death. Our natural situation is to exist in our eternal form. And so once you, I don't know if that's stepping out of the dryer. I guess it's being in the dryer. Once you enter into the dryer,
You don't
right,
have to keep that analogy. I just was on a roll.
it's good. No, I like it. But in other words, you're bound in there. And that's going to be a fearful situation where everything's constantly changing, including your own body, which you likely identify as your real existence, your real self. So yeah, that brings fear. But what I was really speaking to is this sounds like a very sectarian statement, right? Krishna's saying, if you take any other shelter except for me, right, then you're in trouble, and you're not going to get beyond that fear of birth and death, you know. But he says the original source of all creation, right? For I am the Almighty Lord. That sounds like a very, just the way it's translated there.
I am the Almighty Lord.
Yes, right. The way that it rings, can be a little painful for us. But then it gets more clear in its definition of that, the original source of all creation, right? Just again, as we speak about the root of a tree, right? It's only by focusing on this root that you really get to get to what's permanent, right? You can connect, a leaf can try to connect with any other leaf, and another leaf might seem like it's its shelter, but really it's ultimately the root where the nourishment and so on is truly coming from. Even the branch is not the shelter of the leaf, but ultimately it's the root that's providing all the nourishment. And so one could read this, and the next verse will kind of like speak to this a bit. One could read this and say, but aren't there so many, like for instance, I guess I've been speaking on it from more like, say, like a Western person raised in a Judeo-Christian background, maybe turned off by it, hearing this verse and saying, oh man, I've had enough of this. I am the Almighty Supreme, and you have to surrender to me, and there's no other way. But someone also might approach it from like an Eastern point of view and say, well, why just Krishna? What about all the other gods and all the other goddesses? What about them?
What about Chandra, Surya, Chandi?
Yeah, so and it's not that they're not honored or appreciated or loved even, but the idea is none of them are the actual root of all existence, right? And so there becomes an important difference. And why don't we read the next verse and see how it speaks to that? Again, the language in this verse is going to sound a little bit like that kind of, maybe that, I don't know what the right word is for it, but that kind of that presentation of God, which may rub us a little bit wrong. But let's try to understand really what's being said.
It is because of my supremacy that the wind blows out of fear of me. The sun shines out of fear of me, and the Lord of the clouds, Indra, sends forth showers out of fear of me. Yeah, it's got a little bit of that Abrahamic tradition, fear of God thing. Fire burns out of fear of me, and death goes about taking its toll out of fear of me. Well, you can't deny that there is a fearful element of absolute power, but it's just not constant. I mean, and every now and then you'll get a facet of that a personality, but it's just not the presiding personality when you hear about Krishna or Vishnu. But every now and then it pops up. Why? Because God is Ishvara, the ultimate controller.
Yeah, every one of those
gods. Just emphasize it.
Yeah, every one of those gods has their own independence, right? And even the fact that they've taken, when we say, like, for instance, Indra, right, which is known as, like, say, the Lord of the Rain. Indra isn't actually, like, the word Indra isn't the name of someone, but it's actually a post, right?
Right. It means like the one who's got some control.
Yeah, it's a particular position that one has in the universe. And the same can be said for the sun, the same can be said for the moon, the same can be said for the wind, the rivers, and so on and so forth. That some very special, obviously very special person, takes on that role. But they take on that role, it has to do with their own independence, right? Like they wanted, in a sense, to have something to rule over, right? Independent of God to some degree. Now, the Devas, we see throughout the Bhagavatam that the Devas, on one hand, they're the servants of Lord Vishnu, and they're connected to Lord Vishnu, and they take shelter of Lord Vishnu. But we also see that they're individuals with their own desires, and they get mixed up sometimes too, right? And we regularly see throughout the Bhagavatam where even these big Devas, they kind of mess up, right? And they find themselves in trouble. True?
True.
Okay. So this verse is when it says out of fear of me, it in a sense it's just saying that they discover that ultimately that they're dependent on me as well, that every living being is dependent on me. They may forget that, and when they forget that, the way that the material energy works is that they find themselves in trouble. So if in the previous verse where Krishna is saying, I'm the all-pervading Lord, therefore people worship me and I take them beyond birth and death, there's no other shelter that can do that for you. Someone could say, well, what about the gods and the goddesses and so on? This verse is an answer to that. That actually there's softer ways that it could be said, right? There's other language that it could be said. One could have said, actually, all those other gods and goddesses are just servants of Krishna, who's the one that ultimately takes you beyond birth and death. Try to understand that. Here it's being said in a little bit heavier language, right? But another point to this is this whole conversation is stemming from Devahuti expressing to when her husband Kardama was about to leave, she said, "You've given me so much, but what about giving me freedom from fear, right? I need someone to train me so that I become free of fear, right? I need to learn the truth. I need the goggles through which to see this world, the wisdom by which I can live without fear." And so this is also speaking to that, to whatever degree we're not self-realized, we respond to God out of fear, right? It's fear of death, fear of what's going to happen next, But to the degree that we're fully surrendered to God, to the degree that we're fully taking shelter of God, our fear dissipates.
It's true.
All right.
It's true.
Why don't we just have two more verses? We can wrap up the chapter.
All right. Yeah, let's do that. I love wrapping stuff up. The yogis equipped with transcendental knowledge and renunciation and engaged in bhakti for their eternal benefit take shelter of my lotus feet. And since I am the Lord, they are thus eligible to enter into the kingdom of Godhead without fear. That's it. Leave your body fearlessly. It's no longer some struggle. Why? Because you ultimately understand even the body. Forget my house, forget my kids, forget my dog, forget my cattle. Even my body is not mine. What that's a very deep realization. Philosophically, it makes sense, but imagine you get to the point like, yep, time to leave the body. What's the thing in the Yoga Sutras that said that that stage where you understand what is it? Non-clinginess to the body. It's like the final line.
Oh yeah. I forget, but
yeah, it's like
that's the last of the kleshas. It's like clinging to
the clinginess. You're clinging to think like, oh, I'm going to die. You're not going to die. When that's so deeply realized, that aboyam or that fearlessness naturally surfaces. Why? Because fear is tied to my body. Fear is tied. I'm going to lose my body, and I'm going to lose everything that I think my body possesses. What other option do we have here in the material world? It's either choose fear or choose love of God. Put it on a scale, people. It's very simple.
All right.
One more?
That's it. One more.
244, 2, 3, 25, 44. Here we go. Therefore, persons whose minds are fixed on the Lord engage in the intensive practice of bhakti, the intensive practice of devotional service. That is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. Isn't it good to know, Kaustubha, that there is a perfection of existence? It's not, I mean, imagine just flapping around in this world thinking, what are we even doing here? Isn't it good to know, like, yeah, there's a direction, there's a focus, there's a finish line, there's a home run. A lot of people are just sort of like, yep, we flap around, we learn some things.
It's all about the journey.
We go on a vacation, and then we get caught by the sucker punch of time, just get killed. But no, there's a purpose. There's a reason why we're here. We're here for our self-purification, for our self-evolution. And that is the only means for attainment of the final perfection of life. Thank you, Srimad-Bhagavatam. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purports of the third canto, 25th chapter of the Srimad-Bhagavatam, entitled The Glories of Devotional Service. Haribol. Mara, what do you got for us in your magic bag of joy? Some
Got a lot
magic
of good ones today.
nuggets, some nuggets I can chew on for the rest of the day.
I got good stuff. The real enemies are within. Once you have Krishna, you have nothing
Let's
to lose.
digest that, my dear.
Okay.
The real enemies are within.
Mhm.
Maybe within
Once
our Zoom community.
Once you have Krishna, you have nothing to lose.
Yeah.
Love of God should be joyful.
Yeah.
We all have an eternal propensity for love.
That's
The
a tattoo.
Yeah, that's a tattoo.
Yeah. I would say could
Bhagavat-
tattoo that one too.
Bhagavatam punctures the romance of the material world.
We should Kaustubha should get a tattoo. Your dedication to the show, Kaustubha.
Yeah.
Get a tattoo. You'll show your love for me by your tattoo.
I don't see I don't see the connection, but is there a particular one that you're eager for me to get?
You know what? I think we should take a community vote, and then you get it across the chest. Boom.
All right, maybe a temporary one.
The body in the family is an enterprise rental.
What is that again?
The body in the family is an enterprise rental.
Yeah, or a hurt.
Maybe Kaustubha shouldn't tattoo his rental car, his rental vehicle.
That's right. It's not mine to tattoo.
Yeah.
Well,
It's like you can't put a bumper sticker on a car that's a rental, you know?
if it reminds you of the owner.
Okay.
All
Anything
we
else,
have
Mara?
is our free will to love. The dryer of material existence.
The
To
dryer.
the degree you like that, the dryer of material existence. To the degree we take shelter of Krishna, our fear dissipates.
Yes, it does.
Choose fear or choose love of God.
Boom. Simple math.
And lastly, might as well face it, you're addicted to God.
Addicted to God. Henna tattoo for Kaustubha. That's what people are saying.
Yeah, okay.
Sherry Sutton, Texas Zoomer, wants to keep this 8 o'clock time. People are liking 8 a.m.
We got to discuss that.
Yeah, talk.
I mean, of course, all the people here at 8 a.m. are like saying, yeah, but there's people that aren't
All the
here.
5 a.m.ers like, no.
They're not here.
Thanks everybody for joining us. What a nice day. What a beautiful day for a beautiful day. All the kids, all the grown-ups, we're here, hearing the Bhagavatam on the regular. It's becoming normal. It's the current. It's the transcendental riptide dragging us out to the transcendental ocean of Vaikuntha. We're not even realizing it, but by hearing the Bhagavatam every day, great service is done. By such service, one gains affinity for hearing the message of Vasudeva. It's all real. It's all happening to us right now. We're living the Bhagavatam. This is what they've been doing for thousands of years. Just drinking up the Bhagavatam on a regular basis, changing our consciousness, changing our choices, surrounding ourselves by beautiful people. Radhe! I want to thank Kateri for taking such good care of us today over here. I appreciate it. And Damodar Priya, who made me some secret elixirs for my healing.